So you have a whole lot of cash and you want to buy a rental property, but you don't know whether or not you should pay for the rental property all in cash or you should use leverage to buy that rental property. Well, in this video, I'm going to handle just that question coming up. Hey there, it's Billy with Keep On Cash Flow, helping you to grow your money and your mindset so that you can get to the lifestyle that you really want to lead faster. Now, on this channel, we're going to continue to share weekly tips and strategy videos just like this. So if it's your first time here, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And you're also going to want to make sure that you check out the links and the comments in the section below. You're going to find lots of interesting information and comments there. But as for today, I want to go back to this question that I've been getting a lot recently from coaching clients and people that I'm speaking to on the phone. And it's this question about, you have money, let's say you have a pot of cash, let's call it, I don't know, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, and you see a rental property and you don't know if you should buy that in all cash that you have, or if you should go out and use leverage or use a bank or some type of lending. And at the end of the day, before we even get started, I want you to know that the whole concept, it's really about how well do you like to sleep at night? Because whether you use one or the other is also going to help you sleep better or maybe not so much in the evenings. So it's really going to come down to what is the best preference for you and how are you going to figure that out. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is also make sure that you invest what you can afford to lose. Don't invest if it's something that you absolutely need and for getting by day by day. So make sure that you sleep well at night, number one, and number two, that it's money that you could afford to lose if everything went wrong. But let me talk about the first one first, which is cash. So if you use that money, that $100,000 that you have to go out and buy that property, there are some benefits to that. Number one, if you have the cash, it probably means you're going to be able to move much faster or execute or close the deal much faster because you're operating in all cash. You don't have the administrative portion that you need to deal with or that you have to talk about. And it also means for the buyer, depending on the buyer's context, that could be something that they're really looking for. So cash gives you the ability to probably negotiate better. And number two, just speed of being able to close. So if those are things that are important to you, you may look at cash. One of the other things I would say is once you use that cash, it's now in the property. So you have no more liquid assets or no more, I say liquid, but no more money because the money's now locked up in the house. But if you use cash, those are the things that can happen: speed of execution, better negotiation, and just remember that once the money's gone, the money's gone. That's when you pay in cash. Now, the other side of things is using debt. Now, in full disclosure, I'm someone who absolutely loves debt, and it has been one of the foundations for building my real estate portfolio. But one of the things about debt is, number one, when you have debt, you talk about the $100,000 that we talked about before. You would need to use, let's say, 20% of that. But if it's a rental property, most likely right now in the United States, they're asking for up to 25%. So you would need to use 25% or $25,000 to go out and then to be able to purchase a $100,000 property. And that's also depending on a couple of other things. You need to understand what your creditworthiness is, meaning what is your credit score. You'll also need to think about if you've had any past issues, not just with credit score, but have you ever had a house foreclosed? So there's a lot more rules and regulations that you need to go through. But once you go through that, you're using only 25,000 of the 100,000 that you have to be able to go out and purchase that same property. So actually you're using less of your cash to go out and get more assets. So the positive part is, once again, you can use less money to go out and secure more assets. The thing that you'll need to be aware of and you'll want to think of is the fact that there is going to be much more, let's say, paperwork, especially if you're using a traditional lender. So if you're going to use a bank, let's say. There are some other options as well if you want to use a non-traditional lender. So you think about those people that are around you, friends, family, or other people that you may have met through networking events that are looking to place capital in certain projects or looking to put their money in a certain project. That's maybe another way that you could go out, you could borrow money, and then you use that money to purchase a property. Now, the thing you also need to be aware of whenever you're using leverage or you're borrowing money, you also need, there's a higher level of responsibility. So you really need to understand what you're doing when you are using leverage or borrowing other people's money. So, but once again, and that goes back to what I was talking about in the very beginning, it's a function of how well do you like to be able to sleep in the evening, and also making sure that you're not using more money than you can afford to lose. So I wanted to really give you those two perspectives, thinking about cash, how you use cash, or how you can go out and use leverage or use other people's money to go out and purchase a rental property. So there's one way or the other. You have to pick the right way for you and for your context. But I just wanted to give you some things to think about. So I always like to leave you with a question of the day, of course. And today's question is, based on what we've just talked about, I'd love to hear from you. Which are you much more comfortable with, using cash or using debt or leverage to go out and build your rental portfolio? So this is Billy Keels with Keep on Cash Flow. That's my 2 cents for today. And as always, hasta la próxima.